Make that one last phone call. Girl, when I say this nigga done changed his phone number, I'm like, sir. So at this point, I knew he stole my car. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you, if this is your first time, my name is Nikki and this is my tailor-made life. And today I have a story time for you guys. So a couple of days ago, I kind of asked you all what you wanted to see more of, and I noticed that throughout your responses and my previous videos that you guys really like my story times, my testimonies, and things of those natures. So as far as, you know, until somebody gives me more ideas or gives me, you know, more feedback, those are the videos that I'll be pinpointing on the most. So today I have a very special story for you guys. It's a testimony, a story, a life lesson, all in one, and I know that you guys are going to definitely enjoy it. Some of you guys may be able to relate to my story, and some of you guys may not, but you know, it's going to be a good story anyway, so definitely stay tuned. If you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. This not only helps me and shows me that you guys actually like the quality of videos that I am providing to you guys, but it's also to get the word out there, because there's a lot of people out there that are going through these things and that need some guidance and that need some, you know, somebody else who's gone through the same situation or a similar situation. So I definitely appreciate you guys for sharing my videos, and without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I did go ahead and write down some notes on my phone, so if you do see me look down, it's just because I wanted to make sure that I was catching all the key components of the story, just because it was a lot that went down last year. Now, in my previous video, the how I secretly got married to a man with a mental illness, if you haven't seen that already, definitely go watch that video after you watch this one. But basically in 2017, I had got married to a man with a mental illness. We got married in November of 2017, and that rolled on into 2018. We were separated by the end of by the mid-February, so we were only married for like 3 months, you know, before I found out that I had to leave. And during that time, we had went through a situation that, like I said, it troubled me, and it kind of rerouted my life, and it kind of took my faith away in God. Not only did it take my faith away, but it, like, I didn't have confidence in myself. I didn't have confidence in my spiritual ears anymore, because I didn't know what to believe. And God was, like I said in the previous video, God was still holding my hand throughout that time. And one thing that I remember it clear as day, we had given each other some space, and I was, you know, still, you know, praying, not as often, but I was still praying and just asking God, okay, well, what do I do now? I know, you know, divorce is frowned upon, especially in like Christian or religious, you know, views. So I didn't know what to do. You know, I know that I believed in marriage and to continue to stay married and not to get divorces, but I knew that I had to leave this man. So what I did was I continued to ask God, and God ended up telling me, go to Vegas. And I'm thinking, all the places that I can go, you know, why the city of sin? And I didn't really know that until now. Now I know why I'm in Vegas. Now I know why I'm, you know, able to make these videos. It's because I actually obeyed God this time. I actually did what God wanted me to do, and the outcome of that is a huge blessing, huge reward. So before I tell you how I got to Vegas, now I'm going to explain to you how I got to Vegas. So after God told me that, right, I was still disconnected from my husband at the time, because we didn't get divorced until, you know, later on. So we were separated, like I said. He was in LA doing his thing, you know, doing the absolute most, and I was still in my hometown. I was currently living with my parents at the time. And so what I did was I had packed my stuff up. I was like, I'm gonna go down to Vegas, and I'm gonna start looking for apartments and homes out there that I would be able to afford. So I had went out there, or I had made the plan to go out there, and my ex, or my, at the time, my husband had called me and was like, hey, like, you know, can you forgive me, whoop-de-whoop, like I really want to see you, whoop-de-whoop. And I just let him know, like, you know what, I can't be with you, but I want to let you know I'm about to, you know, get ready to move to Vegas. And he was like, oh, well, take me with you. And I was like very hesitant, because it was like, why would you want to come with me even though we're not going to be together? Why would you want to go on this journey? And at the time, I didn't necessarily want to be alone. I didn't want like to go on this huge venture by myself, because I've traveled. Don't get me wrong. I've traveled, gone to many places, but every time I've traveled, or every time I've gone somewhere really like far, or like on like a new big venture, I've always had like a man with me, or like, you know, my parents with me, or somebody with me to comfort me so that I wasn't alone. So first of all, I live like 10 hours, if you count like stopping for gas and food, about 10 to 11 hours away from Vegas. So it wasn't that far of a drive, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take you with me. No, we're not getting a place together. No, you're not gonna know where I live, but you can go on this journey with me, you know, just, you know, to have somebody with me. So he gets in the car, like, first of all, he comes down from LA, and he gets in the car. We ended up going out there. Now, mind you, I have my stuff packed, not like my whole stuff, because I haven't officially decided, you know, where I was gonna live at. So I just had a few things, you know, to last me for some time. And it was during kind of tax season, so I knew my taxes was gonna hit, you know what I mean? And so what I did was, when we got here, you know, I immediately started looking for housing. Like, he kind of went with his friends and kind of was doing his own thing. We were staying in hotels. We were staying actually in like super budget hotels. And he wasn't there for a lot of the time. He was kind of like doing his own thing. Like I said, I don't want to get into detail about his life, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not in the business of like breaking anybody down, or spreading, you know, somebody's, you know, personal life stories. But just know that we was going through it while he was, you know, with me in Vegas. So one thing I am going to let you know, because this pertains to the story, it had gotten so bad to the point where he had stole from me. He had stole my money. He had stole, the only thing that he didn't take was my car. Obviously, my daughter was with me at this time. We weren't like fighting, or he wasn't like putting his hands on me or anything in front of her, nothing like that. And I wasn't going to allow that, and he knew that. So I went, and like I said, I was doing my thing. You know, I didn't really have too many family or friends out here. I think I associated with 2 people out here, 2 or 3 people out here that I, you know, would consider to be my friends, or people that I, you know, trusted. And so looking for apartments, you know, going every day, you know, trying to find jobs, you know, that were hiring, and this, that, and the third. And I was low-key struggling, because not only was he stealing from me, but he was out here doing what he was doing out there in LA. And it was like, it was discomforting, because we were staying in the same hotel. And so when he would come home, or come to the hotel at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, it was like I would get that anxiety back. And it was like, it was so discomforting that, you know, I didn't want to be around him. And he was still trying to, you know, act like he was, you know, my provider, and that we were still together. So he was still trying to do little like mind control manipulation things, and I just wasn't going for it. So I tried to avoid him as much as I possibly could, but there was times where he was just unavoidable, you know what I mean? So I knew then it was definitely a mistake, but this is where God plays into my life and how things started to change. So first of all, God told me to go to Vegas. He did not say, oh, take your husband with you. He said, and he said just specifically me, was to go and to trust him. And so what I'm trying to get at is that I started running from God. I started thinking that I was doing the right thing by going to Vegas, but what was holding me back, and like I said, this is where the story gets really interesting. By me taking my ex-husband with me to Vegas, it destroyed what God had put in me. It destroyed, you know, the trust that I was supposed to have on this journey going by myself. So it actually God had to show me something in order for me to separate myself from him. And I had to go through certain things so that I can realize what God really wanted in that point, in that season of my life. God wanted me alone. He wanted me to trust him and to follow his guidance so that I can get the things that I've been praying for, like shelter, a happy home, finding somebody, you know, that would actually love and accept me. I had to go through some things in order for God to show me what he had waiting at the end of the, you know, at the end of the rainbow for me. And at the time I didn't know that. I didn't know why I didn't know why I was going through so much and why, like, it was taking so long for me to receive my blessing. You know, I was getting tired. I was growing weary, like, God, where are you? I need you. And so this is when things had to turn around and got worse. So I'm already going through this marriage situation, crazy guy, you know, had to separate myself from him. And one day he disappeared on me. He left me stranded. Like I said, he had took my money. I didn't have anything. Mind you, I'm hours away from my family. I think I had $3.79 to my name. And it was me and my 3-year-old, or was she 3? No, she was 2 at the time. Me and my 2-year-old daughter. So I'm going to Wendy's getting the chicken nuggets at $1.49, 6 for $1.49, you know, for that day. And I ended up contacting one of my friends out here, and I'm like, look, this is a situation. I brought my husband out here. He ended up stealing from me. The only thing that I have is $3 to my name and my car. And she was like, you know what? I will open up my home to you. You guys come, you know, more than welcome to stay. So I go, and things kind of was rough staying there. Because first of all, I don't like being under other people's roofs. Like, I don't like staying with other people just because I like to have my own, you know. And so I was very grateful for her, you know, opening her doors to me, you know, and allowing me to stay there. But it just something wasn't right. So what I had did was I had left, me and my daughter had left, and I had went, you know, trying to find jobs, trying to find a place still, trying to, you know, just trying my hardest to get out of this situation. I was in my car, and I was praying and praying, just asking God for guidance. Like, I need you to help me get out of this situation. And something kind of was like bothering me. And I ended up getting, like, sitting in my car, turned the car on, I went to the hotel that we had been staying at, like, for like 2 weeks. I think we had stayed at that hotel. So I drive to that hotel. You know, mind you, I'm from California. I was doing Lyft in California. So I still had my little Lyft emblem. I pull up to this hotel, and this guy, he like starts walking, like, you know, attempting to get into my car. And I'm like, hold on, Slim, like, excuse me. And then he was like, oh, I thought you were my Lyft driver. And I'm like, no, like, no, I'm not your Lyft driver. I don't know why you would think that. And he was like, oh, well, look. And he shows me that there's a Lyft ride that he had just paid for, and the person was on its way. And the car kind of did resemble mine, but it wasn't my car. Like, obviously, you know, I know what my car is. And the person whose picture it wasn't mine. I was like, I'm sorry, you have the wrong person. And he was like, well, I'm really in a rush. He's like, I have diabetes, or not diabetes, or I'm a diabetic. Yeah, he was like, I'm a diabetic, and I have to get to this pharmacy. And I'm like, okay, like, wait for your Lyft. Your Lyft is, he's like, well, I've been waiting here and the man still hasn't showed up, and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And I'm just like, in my head, like, man, I'm not about to let you in my car. Like, I don't know what it is that you think this is. And something was like, you know what? This guy doesn't seem crazy. Mind you, I have the worst judgment when it comes to men, apparently. So in my head, I was like, I'm down in the dumps. Mind you, I got $3 to my name. He was like, I'll give you money to just drive me up the street. So I'm like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? I had pepper spray in my hand. He's old. He's not like no young buck that like he could like grip on me and then like take over if he wanted to. Nah, this dude old. Like, when I say old, he's at least like 45 up. And you know what? Let me correct that. That's not old, because, you know, 45 isn't old necessarily, but he was old enough and like kind of brittle looking, because if anything would have popped up, I could have kicked him in the shin and it would have been over. You feel me? So I felt like, okay, I'm going through all of this stuff. The least I can do is help somebody else, because I'm the type of person, like, if I if I see somebody who's in need and I can help them, I'm gonna help them. You know, I didn't have that much gas, but if he offered to give me at least $20-$30 to drive him up the street. And so in my head, I'm like, my daughter gotta eat. I gotta eat. I gotta make a way somehow. And I'm not about to be in Vegas, you know, doing the most to get no money, you know. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is God telling me, or, you know, sending somebody to help me. And I didn't want to continue to be disobedient. So I was like, you know what, just get in the car or whatever. He gets in the passenger seat, and we're driving down the road, and he's telling me, you know, how his wife had just died. And so he came down to Vegas trying to, you know, start with, like, basically he's a cook. So he was like that he came to Vegas to find a job, you know, something that he loves to do, which is cooking, because he's heard that like a lot of people can make it out here. And so I was inspired by his story. You know, I felt a little bad for him because his wife had just died. And then on top of that, the reason why he was like lifting and getting rides from other people was that the hotel, or this is what he claimed, I later on found out it was a lie, but he had claimed that the car that he came down here with was towed away from the hotel that he was staying at. And in my head, I'm like, okay, if they towed it, why can't you just go pick it up, you know, pay the little money to get it out? And he was like, well, he's like, they didn't leave any contact information. I was like, well, you didn't check with the hotel. And like the story just didn't add up to me. But I, you know, at the time I wasn't really worried about it. I was focusing on getting him to where he needed to get so I can get them coins, you feel me? So I drop him off, and he was like, hey, he's like, now you can leave and we can part ways, and that can be the end of it. He was like, or he was like, I'm looking for a job. He's like, if you live out here, he's like, I'll pay you every day to drive me around to look for a job. And so I'm like, okay, cool. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. I don't see why not. You know, it's just me and my daughter. Like, yeah, my daughter was in the backseat the whole time. And so I was like, okay. I was a little bit iffy. Like I said, I'm always iffy when it comes to strangers, just because you just never know. We're in the city of sin. You just never know. People are crazy. But I know that I needed to do something to get some type of money. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, and then just a quick disclaimer, because I know somebody in the comments is gonna say this, why didn't you just Lyft, whoop-de-whoop? So with Lyft, when you start doing for Lyft, you pay for a certain destination or a certain area. So I can only do Lyft in California. It didn't work for Vegas. Trust me, I tried it. I've already contacted them. If I wanted to do it in Vegas, I would have to get a business license and the whole other things that Vegas required. Didn't have the money for that, obviously. So I couldn't do that. But doing this kind of like underneath the table, I was able to, you know, drive him around and get money, you know, that way. So that happened, and we was doing that for quite some time. I would say about, you know, a week, but it wasn't like every single day. It was like he would call me like every other day or whatever, and I was kind of going from hotel to my friend's house out here. And he was like, that he was having a hard time finding a job. And I'm like, well, you know, why? And he was like that he had a background that, you know, as a young man, he wasn't, you know, the greatest of men. And I was like, oh, okay. And like he kind of shared with me his story, and I'm not one to judge, so I was like, okay, you know, those aren't like the worst things in the world. So I was just like, okay, whatever. And so I was helping him, you know, we were searching online, and we would go to different places. He would get an application filled out, turn it back in. He had got a few interviews or whatever. But at this point, it was like, because my husband had left, because I don't want you to forget, my husband is still out there. So he, you know, he doesn't know what I'm doing because I can't reach him. He can't reach me type thing. It was like we had no contact. He was out there doing his whole thing. You feel me? So I was just like, you know, I was on my own. And eventually it got to the point where he was getting like interviews, and so we went to Walmart, and like it was like at first it was kind of like an equal trade. I was helping him, he was helping me. He had bought my daughter a stroller, so when we did go out and like, you know, go to different places and turn in applications, it was easier for me to like carry her around versus like dragging along a 2-year-old walking, and you know, she's complaining about her feet, and then it's hot as hell in freaking Vegas at this time. So it was like, you know, he was, like I said, he was helping me, we was helping each other. He was also staying in a hotel. He had offered a few times like, oh, you guys can just stay with me, and I'm like, nah, like I'm straight, like I don't know you like that. This literally became like a month and a half thing. Like it became Like, I started getting to know him, he started getting to know me at least, and it was like, you know, it was okay. He never tried to like hook up with me, or like, he's complimented me before, so it was like never anything like sexual going on in between us. It was never anything uncomfortable. He's never attempted to like touch on my daughter, or, you know, like anything. My daughter kind of started, you know, to enjoy being around him. He was a friendly guy who wasn't like, at least he was friendly to us. He wasn't mean, he wasn't like, you know, I didn't get anxiety being around him. And I'm really good when it comes to like spirit. Like, if your energy is off, I'ma feel it. And he wasn't like that, at least not at first. He did smoke weed. And like I said, he had a diabetic, so he did have to take like, you know, medicine and like shots and stuff for that. And so we, like I said, we was out here, we was grinding. I was getting my applications, turning them in, doing this, that, and the third. And everything kind of seemed okay. Eventually, my husband had contacted me and was like, oh, where you at? I need your help. We need to get into this place. I guess he had came up on some money. Y'all don't want to know how he came up on money, but he had came up on some money. At the time, I didn't know how he had got it, but, you know, I wasn't even going to ask at this point. We had got into, so out here in Vegas, they have weeklies. What weeklies are, they're like these, they're weeklies. You pay for a week's worth of rent, and you stay there for the whole week, and then it gets cheaper as you go. So we have finally found this weekly that we can afford, and so we move in the sense of like all of our luggage that we've been carrying around. All three of us actually move into this place, and because eventually I told him like, hey, this guy, you know, I'm kind of working for him right now. He, you know, if I go, he's gonna have to come, because at this point it's like we all don't have jobs, you know what I mean? So we're all like trying to help each other, because if we don't, we're gonna end up on the street somewhere. So, you know, I let him know, like, he's been rocking with me this whole time. He's not crazy, you know, he's not, you know, you feel me, he's not a bad guy. So we went and we got into this place, and like I said, my husband started to be like abusive again, like not necessarily like putting his hands on me, but like verbally was like, you know, trying to put me down as a woman and this, that, and the third. And I wasn't having it. Like, y'all, when I say there's only so much of that I can take before I will just walk away and leave you the hell alone. And so he was just doing too much. And I was like, no, I gotta do something about this. Like, I gotta leave. So one day he was like, it was like, no, the next day we had gotten into it really, really bad one night. Like really, really bad, because he was trying to tell me that selling drugs was, that God allows him to sell drugs. When I say this man was delusional, and yes, he had demons, that was one of them. He thought he was like a whole pimp. He thought he was a whole drug dealer. Like, boy, sit down. God is not going to make you no drug dealer. Stop. So he was doing that, right? And I was like, I don't want that around me. I don't want, you know, because if anything were to happen, first of all, you riding in my car or you're around me and my daughter, there's no way I'm going to allow my daughter to get taken away for your mistakes. I don't even want you around me. So at that point, I knew, like, I got to go, because once I found out that he was doing that, I had to leave. I had to separate myself from him for good, because this was going to really, this could affect me. They can take my, like, the state could take my daughter away. And I was, me? No, no, that's not even an option for me. So I was like, look, I gotta go. Luckily, thank God, this is when like everything was like kind of starting to work out again. My taxes dropped. When I say the next day after we had gotten to that really big fight, my taxes dropped the very next day. And I'm like, well, since I got this money, I have two options. I can either stay here and try to figure it out and try to get into a place, try to get a job, or I can go back to my hometown with the money that I have for my taxes. I can work at my old job, which I was working at Outback in my hometown. It's like a steakhouse, if you haven't heard of that before. So what I did was, because I was leaving my husband, I was gonna let him do whatever it is that he wanted to do, and I was gonna go, it was gonna be me and this guy, the older guy that was helping me. I was gonna take him if he got a job. So what I did was, I had called my hometown and was like, hey, I'm coming back. If y'all could hook me up with a job, like please help me with a job. Like, I have a friend here, he's real cool. He's a chef, a cook, and he would be, you know, a great asset to work, blah, 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 right? I get him a job, we go back, we're both working at the same restaurant. this is where things started to get a little bit weird, because he started working, right? But then I guess he wasn't really feeling the job. So he had went to another company that was literally like kind of next door or like around the way from where we was working. And so he started working there. And while he's out there, I'm living at my parents' house. There's no way I'm about to bring this man into my parents' house. So what I did was, I was buying, like, with the money that I was getting, because mind you, they had all my information because I previously worked there before. So they had all my information. He was a new hire, so he had to wait some time before he actually got his first check. And me, I was getting my check, you know, when everybody else was getting paid, because they already had all my information. So I was getting paid, and I would take care of what I needed to with my daughter and my family and all that stuff. And then the money that I had left over, I would buy him like his hotel for the night. Now, yes, y'all can call me crazy, like, why, like, you don't even know this man, why would you do that? The reason why I was doing that is because he had helped me. You know, he could have left me out there in Vegas. I would have had nothing, you know, I wouldn't have had a dime to my name. So I thought the least that I can do is try to repay him, you know. So I go and I'm, you know, buying his hotel for, you know, a couple of days at a time, whatever I could. And he's like making promises like, you know, I'm gonna pay you back, you know, this is only temporary until I can actually get some money coming in, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. I ended up finding out that he, working at this place, he started doing drugs. Now, and I'm not talking about little drugs or like small drugs like weed and like smoking cigarettes and stuff like that. No, he started doing like the hard stuff. And like, he was very secretive about it, so it wasn't like he was doing it around me or my daughter. But how I found out was, like, I had seen it one day and I'm like, what is that? And he was like, he ended up telling me like some dude that he was working with was selling it to him or whatever, and it was giving him energy for him to like continue to work. And so I'm like, I don't like that, you know. I left my husband out in Vegas because of that, so why are you know what I mean, like, why are you whatever? So he starts in the brain, like, he starts acting different. And like, I know that drugs can mess you up, you know. That's why I choose to stay away from them. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna lie and sit here and be like, oh, I've never tried it. Yeah, I've tried, you know, a couple of things before. But that's why I know that I don't ever want to, you know, be in that lifestyle, because I've tried it myself. So that's what I'm saying. I cannot judge anybody for doing what they do, because I am not perfect in any way, shape, or form. I've done my wrong, but I've learned from my wrong too. So it was like, I know the lifestyle and the problems that those things bring. So I'm like, nah, like, I don't want those in my life. And with him doing that, it like started messing up his mind. One day he was like, he had called me, and this is where things went all the way left. And this is also one of my biggest lessons when it comes to like dealing with people. A lot of things kind of were happening. We was both working at the time. My money was, you know, running low because I was continuously helping him. He was finally getting paid and I stopped helping him. And so one day he was like, he had came to my house, or like kind of parked in the area of my parents' house, and he's like, something's wrong. He was like, I don't feel right. He was like, I don't remember what's happened in this last week. It was like, my memory is just gone. And he was like, he's like, I met this girl, and we're supposed to run off and get married, but now she's not answering the phone. And I'm just confused, like, what is he talking about? Who is he supposed to marry? And he was talking about something. He met this girl in this church, and that I guess they were selling this girl to him for him to get married. It was like part of her religion or something like that, and they were doing it from this church. And in my head, I'm like, this sounds like some kidnapping, you know what is it called, sex trafficking. That's what it sounded like to me. Like, what he was telling me, he was like that they hadn't had sex because she was still a virgin, but once once they ran off and got married or something, that he would be able to have. And I'm like, first of all, how old is this girl, and how did y'all meet? And he was like, oh, that she's 21 or something like that. And mind you, he's an older guy, but it's like, you know, she's at least legal. So, you know, I wasn't like really tripping off him, but I was like, how'd you meet her? And you said you met her at a church, and who's trying to make you? And he was like, and now these men are calling me, telling me that I have to pay for it. And he was like, I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, yo, at this point, you done got involved in some sex trafficking stuff, and I am straight. Like, I'm not, no, No, I'm not about to be involved. You ain't about to get me caught up. As a matter of fact, I don't even want you in my car. Like, after that day, right? And I'm like, you just need to like go sleep it off. You need to go figure it out. I was like, I would advise you don't even contact these people no more, because you done got yourself into something that can get you killed. You know what I mean? Like, literally can get you killed, and I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want none of that, you know, in my life at all whatsoever. So I was like very hesitant now, because it was like, he's not only is he doing drugs, but he's acting crazy. Like, he done got himself into a whole situation, and I'm straight. So the next day, the very next day after he tells me that, he was like, hey, and like, I understood that him paying for hotels every night was getting pricey, and that eventually he wasn't going to be able to do that forever. Like, we tried to find him different places or whatever, and it just wasn't working out. Like, California is expensive. So him trying to do it on his own, and I wasn't about to move in with him. It was like, it was hard for him to get into his own place. So he called me and was like, hey, like, you know, I don't have any more money to get into any more hotels for right now. He's like, can I sleep in your car? And I'm like, can you sleep in my car? I don't know how I feel about you sleeping. He was like, I won't drive off. He was like, you could take the key with you, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, if I could take my key and, you know, you just stay in the car all night, that's, you know, that's cool. So I would park hella far from my parents' house, and I would let him sleep in the car, and then I would go in the morning. We would like get something to eat or whatever, and then he would go to work. And it kind of, that we did that for like a week. And then one of these days, like I said, he was in a car, so it was like he had to go get like a gym membership so he could take a shower, because he would, like I said, there's no way I was letting him in my house. Like, it just wasn't gonna happen like that. So I was like, okay, like, you know, you sleeping in my car or whatever, like, this is gonna get old real fast, because what if I want to take off in the middle of the night and go somewhere? Like, I gotta go through you. No, I'm not living like that. So he was like, one morning he was like, hey, he's like, I need to go, you know, take a shower at the gym. He was like, do you mind if I just take your car real quick and go to the gym? And I'm like, okay, whatever, like, you know, it's down the street, whatever. So he goes and he takes my car to the gym. And I'm calling him like, hey, where you at? Where you at? And he's like, oh, I'm on my way. He drives to my house. And I'm like, okay, so, you know, give me my keys. And he was like, oh, wait. He was like, oh, I have to go somewhere. I got to meet up with my friend. She just called me. Whoop, whoop. Can I just take her? And I'm like, no, because at this point, like I said, that energy thing, his energy was off. Something about him, the way he went about it was like, it gave me so much anxiety. I had no peace of mind. It was like, it was weird. Like, I just felt it all over me. As soon as he drove up to me, I knew that something was wrong. I didn't know what, but I knew that there was something wrong. And so him like rushing and frantically, and you know, I'm like, no, son, give me my keys back. So I'm walking towards the door to get my keys from him. He pulls off with my car. And it wasn't like he peeled off to the point where I'm like chasing him, like, you know what? He was just like, I promise I'll be right back. And he like kind of just drove off. And I'm like, I'm sitting there like, okay, I don't really have a reason for me to be like, you know, super on top of him like that. But there's something off about him. He was not, at that time, he was not allowed to just go off and take my car like that. That's stealing. If I tell you no and you take my car, that is considered stealing. So he drove off or whatever, and I'm waiting, you know, I'm at home, you know, I'm waiting, it's my day off, I'm waiting. He drove off, I'm waiting by my phone, no answer, no nothing. And I'm just like, okay, what's going on? I'm going on social media, I'm writing him like on his Facebook, like, where the hell are you? Where's my car at? Like, you need to bring my car back. I'm texting his phone. And then like after 2 or 3 hours of me like trying to contact him, I make that one last phone call. Girl, when I say this nigga done changed his phone number, I'm like, sir. So at this point, I knew he stole my car. Like, there was no doubt about it. There was no, like, there's no reason. And like what it said when I called was like, this person has recently changed their number or something like that. Anybody who has any type of sense would know that if somebody peels off in your car like that, they're on drugs, so mentally they're not, you know, stable, but yet you are out here, you know, like you out here helping people and you out here doing this, that, and the third, right? I know his history, so I know that, you know, he is kind of, you know, klepto when it comes to like stealing and stuff, but I just never thought because we was, you know, helping each other that he would have stole from me. Like, girl, it won't happen again. But just at the time, I was like, I just didn't know, you know, and I was just so flabbergasted. Like, he really stole my car. So I contacted the police. My parents are like on vacation at this time, so it was like they didn't really know what was going on, and I wasn't really sharing this information with them because my parents would be worrying, and I was like, don't worry about it. Eventually I did tell him that that he had stole my car and all of that, but I contacted the police. I had gave him the description, a picture of him, all this other stuff, and then like I was like, okay, after a couple of days, I'm like, this ain't gonna work, because first of all, I gotta go to work, so my job isn't super close, but it's not far either, and so I'm like, okay, I gotta drop my daughter off to her daycare, and then I gotta drive all the way to work. So I'm like lifting, and like it's getting pricey for me, you feel me? Like, it's getting real pricey. I done already spent an arm and a leg, most of my tax money on this dude providing for, you know, his hotel and stuff. That's why I was like so hurt. Like, come on, dude. Like, yeah, we was helping each other, but at this point I did way more than what I should have. I had got you a job, I had took you with me everywhere I was going, you know, like I had did more than what I should have been doing for a grown man, you know, and a stranger at that. So then I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute, he signed into my Facebook, or signed into my phone with his Facebook. So I'm like, wait a minute. Now, if he's smart like me, I don't put my location on Nathan. When I say Nathan, you ain't gonna find me unless I want to be found. So he leaves the location on his phone. Obviously, if you use your GPS and stuff like that, the location. But with Facebook specifically, and this is gonna have a lot of y'all checking, because you can literally, like, if somebody signs into your Facebook, they can pinpoint your exact location, like your exact move. But I didn't know that. Like, a week and a half had gone by before I actually realized that I can do this. So like I said, I'm signed on and I'm on his junk. First of all, I have permission, because not only did you have me texting this female for you, like trying to like give my female advice to this girl and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So I had permission to be on your thing. It wasn't like I was doing it and I didn't have your permission. No, I had permission, son. You were signed into my thing and I was helping you out. So you stayed signed on to my phone. You never signed yourself out. So I smoothly went on there, went on the settings, and I looked and I was like, wait a minute, his location is on. So every move that he made was literally being tracked by his Facebook. And so what I did was, I just kept tracking him. I kid you not, every store that he went to, I knew. Every road he was on, I knew. And like I said, I ended up contacting the police and letting them know this is where he is. Like, I need y'all. And like, the thing is that, so I tried to contact California police, but there's nothing that they can do because that's out of their jurisdiction. So they was like, you have to call Vegas police. And so I'm like, okay, like, so I called Vegas police and they're like, how do you know this information? How do you know, his pinpoint location? I'm like, well, he signed into Facebook on my phone, and his phone is connected to his Facebook. And they was like, oh, well, he was like, are you here? You have to be around. I don't know, they gave me some lame excuse to why they couldn't go, like that I had to be there or something like that. So I was like, at this point I was done, because first of all, the police officers ain't doing their job, especially if I know where this man is at. Like, come on, like, I just want my car back. I don't want nothing from him. I just want my car back, you know? So I'm like, you know what, I called my parents. I was like, look, I found my car and I found the man who stole my car. I'm gonna pull up. And my dad's like, be careful. You know, my parents are, you know, overprotective, so they're like, be careful, you really shouldn't go, you should just let the police handle it. And I'm like, nah, like, especially if I've already tried that, nobody's gonna help me but myself. So you know what I did that morning? After I got off the phone with my parents, I booked me a little $45 flight to Vegas. And I ended up, by the time I landed, right, there was I had voicemails, and I'm like, who is this calling me? You know, I got all these missed calls. It's the police station telling me that they got him. And so I'm like, what? Like, y'all got him. What happened was, he was at this mall. Apparently he had got caught stealing. So they had him in the back of the car by the time I said, look at God. I said, look at God. Ain't that something? So I pull up, like I have one of my friends come pick me up, you know, from the airport, and we ended up going to the mall that he was at, and he was sitting in the back of the car. There goes my little car parked in the little stall and at the exact location where my phone Facebook app had said it was. And I'm like, wow, like, and they were like, oh, you can't talk to him or something like that. I was like, I mean, the only really thing that I ever would ask him was why, you know, like it's not like you were a bad guy, you know, why out of all people would you steal from me? And he stole one of the things that I needed the most at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I needed to get to work. I needed to be able to take care of my daughter and take her to daycare for me to go to work, you know? So it was like, for him to take my car, it was like such a selfish mood, especially when I was helping him so much. So I had made eye contact with him in the police car a few times, and he just like shook his head and put his head down. There was nothing that he could say. He couldn't murmur he was sorry, because he wasn't sorry. He knew what he was doing, you know what I mean? He knew that he was gonna get caught, especially with me, because I can be Detective Gadget if I need to be. Most women can be. So I was just like, at this point, I was like, first of all, I was thankful because I had got my car back, you know? Like, yes, I had to drive this 11-hour drive to get back and get home, but it was worth it, you know? I finally had got my car back, and yeah, but that was like one of the hardest 2 weeks of, not even one, because girl, I've gone through quite some things. So, but that week or 2 weeks of me having to track my car down and you know, worrying about, you know, Lyft rides and getting rides from people, like that was stressful. Like, I'm more than thankful for having a car, because without it, honey, I don't know how a lot of people do it. Like, you know, I don't mind riding the bus and taxis and stuff like that, but there wasn't no, like, where my job was, it was like, if I took a bus, it would take 2.5 hours, but it's a 4-minute drive from my house. I'm like, nah, I'm not about to do all that. All the craziness plays into part. So it first started off with God telling me to go to Vegas, right? I go to Vegas, but this is the part where where I started running from God and disobeying God, is the part where I had to go through this for God to show me this whole time, like, you should have trusted me. Because if I would have went to Vegas by myself, in this story, my ex-husband is Jonah. I don't know if you guys heard of the book of Jonah in the Bible, but he was Jonah. I should have got him off my boat. You understand what I mean? I should have left him in LA where he was, because if I would have just left him and I would have just came to Vegas like I was supposed to, I would have been in my own place. I wouldn't have gone through that. I wouldn't have had to come back to my parents' house and struggle like that. I wouldn't have had to cash out on no stranger. I wouldn't have gotten my car stolen. None of that stuff would have ever happened. And it was all decisions that I made, you know, that messed me up. Now, God, even then, was still holding my hand through it, because he never let go of my hand. He continued to bless me. What are the odds that the night that I get into it with my husband, the very next morning, my taxes drop? Like, what are the odds? That there is no odds. God was just working, and he wanted to show me, like, you need to trust me. If he says to do something, and like I said, a lot of you guys have to pray over your spiritual ears, because God will speak to you, whether it's through other people, through ministry. Like, there's tons of ways for God to speak to you. God's even speaking to me through songs before. So with that being said, I should have just listened to God and trusted him and came to Vegas by myself, or at least with just me and my daughter, like I was supposed to, instead of dragging Jonah along with me. Because dragging Jonah along with me, it actually led me to a bad situation. So going through all of that stuff, literally let me see, it was November, December, January, February, March, April, May. It was 7 months of hell that I had to go through before I had to get to my blessing. Now, the 7 months was me secretly getting married, going through that abuse, leaving my husband, him going to LA, me inviting him, or not necessarily inviting him because I didn't invite him, but me taking him to Vegas with me being homeless for that time, during that time, and me stumbling onto a stranger for me to end up where I'm at right now. Like, literally, I had to thank God for the things that I had went through during that. Now I know that sounds crazy. It's like, why would you thank God for your troubles? I get this question so much because people see me and they're like, why are you thanking God for like the bad things that you went through? Because without the bad things that I went through, I would not be here. Do you guys not understand? Like, okay, being grateful, right? Being grateful shows God that you care, that you're grateful for still, for one, being alive, that you made it through regardless of the situation. Because a lot of you guys have made it through some situations that you would not have made it out of without him. So being grateful shows him like that you want to be obedient, that you want, you know, to show him that you're thankful for, you know, bringing him out of situations that you wouldn't have been that you wouldn't have gotten through because of your own negligence or your own disobedience to God or your own destruction. Because a lot of times we bring destruction into our own lives. It's not, you know, it's not always the devil, it's not always Satan, you know, doing these things. Sometimes we make choices in our life that, you know, affect us in a major way, and God has to pull us out of those situations. This was something that I did, not knowing that I was doing it, but me taking my husband with me to Vegas is what led to all of this other destruction, which led to me losing my car and ended up getting it back. It led to all of these things, but it also led me here. I'm in a beautiful apartment. I have my daughter with me. I have my other baby girl on her way. Like, it has led me to such a great place, and without that, I would not be here. I would not be the woman that I am. I wouldn't have this story to tell. There would be so much missing, you know, from this video if I didn't go through what I went through. And today I found out why. I had to go through that because I had to allow God to take me out of a situation that I put myself in so that he can finally bless me. Because if he would have just, if I would have just let my husband stay with me, I would have continued to have that, I would have been continuing to be dragging Jonah with me, continuously not receiving my blessings because I'm hanging around the wrong person. I'm being influenced by the wrong people. And there's a lot of people going like that. My family, friends, you know, strangers. Stop dragging along people that are not supposed to be with you. Not everybody is supposed to be there for the whole season. Some people are temporary. Some people are only supposed to be there for that time period, whether it's to help you, to teach you, or to hurt you in some cases. You understand me? So it's like, you need to let those negative people go, and you need to trust God and trust in the process, because he will get you out of anything as long as you are obedient to him. So I know this video is another long one. I'm super sorry. My story times aren't short because there's a lot of things that play into them, and there's a lot of key things that I have to share with you guys all. Because if you wouldn't have listened to the end, like a lot of you may have or may not have, and for whoever is staying, I hope you received, you know, the lesson from this story. Don't forget to like and share this video because there's a lot of people that are going through that have attachments to people that's gonna end up hurting them in the long run, that it's not helping them, having these negative people or the people that God doesn't want you around attached to you, because it can stop you from receiving the blessing that you are meant to receive. So just know that, take that, you know, from somebody who has literally lived it just recently, not like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This happened last year. So literally take this from me and continue to grow, continue to love God, love yourself, and just be a blessing to the world. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.